As I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, carefully applying my makeup, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. My husband John and I were about to leave for our much-anticipated anniversary trip to a luxurious resort in the Caribbean. We had been looking forward to this vacation for months, as a chance to reconnect and relax away from the stresses of everyday life. But as I looked at my reflection, I couldn't ignore the growing doubts in the back of my mind. Lately, things hadn't been going well between us. The spark seemed to have faded, replaced by routine and distance. We rarely made love anymore, and when we did it felt mechanical and devoid of passion. I sighed and pushed those thoughts aside, determined not to let them overshadow our trip. Maybe this vacation would be just what we needed to reignite the flame that had once burned so brightly. As I finished getting ready, packing the last few items into my suitcase, I heard John's footsteps approaching from down the hallway. He entered the room with a smile on his face and wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You look beautiful," he whispered into my ear. I leaned into his embrace, trying to ignore the nagging doubts that still lingered in my mind. "Thank you," I replied softly. We made our way through the airport and onto the plane, hand in hand like two love-struck teenagers. The flight was uneventful, and before long we found ourselves stepping off the plane into a wall of heat and humidity. The resort was even more breathtaking than it had looked online. Lush palm trees swayed in the breeze as crystal-clear turquoise waters gently lapped against pristine white sand. It was like stepping into a postcard-perfect paradise. We settled into our room and spent our days lounging by the pool or exploring the island's hidden coves and secluded beaches. John seemed happier than I had seen him in months, and it warmed my heart to see him smile and laugh so freely. But as the days turned into nights, a sense of unease began to settle over me once again. John had become increasingly distant, spending more and more time on his phone or lost in thought. He would brush off my attempts at conversation with a distracted smile, leaving me feeling frustrated and ignored. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a blaze of fiery red and orange, I found myself sitting alone on our balcony. The warm tropical air caressed my skin as I gazed out at the star-filled sky. The sound of laughter and soft music drifted up from the pool below, reminding me of everything that was missing from our trip. Tears welled up in my eyes as I finally allowed myself to acknowledge the truth that had been staring me in the face all along. John was having an affair. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind out of me. All those late nights at work, the secretive phone calls, it all made sense now. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me, threatening to pull me under. As I sat there on that balcony overlooking paradise, a small part of me couldn't help but wonder if this was my fault somehow. Maybe if I had been more attentive or passionate, he wouldn't have strayed. But deep down I knew that wasn't true. Infidelity was a choice he had made, regardless of anything I may have done or not done. I took a deep breath and wiped away my tears. There was no point in dwelling on what ifs or assigning blame. What mattered now was figuring out how to move forward from here. I picked up my phone and dialed John's number without hesitation. It was time for us to have a long overdue conversation about where we stood and what we both wanted out of our marriage. As I held the phone to my ear, waiting for him to pick up, a shooting star streaked across the night sky. It felt like a sign, a small glimmer of hope in the darkness. And as John's voice finally came through the line, I couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, this trip could still be the beginning of something new and beautiful. "Hey babe," John's voice came through the phone. "What's up?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to start the conversation. "John, can we talk?" I asked softly. There was a pause on the other end of the line, then he replied, "Of course, honey. Is everything okay?" I took another deep breath, trying to steady myself. "No, not really," I admitted. "I've been feeling distant from you lately, and I think we need to talk about where we stand." There was a long silence before he finally spoke again. "I know things haven't been great between us," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry for that." His words caught me off guard. I had expected defensiveness or denial, not an admission of guilt. "I've been keeping something from you," he continued. "Something that I'm not proud of." My heart rate quickened as I braced myself for what he was about to say. "I've been having an affair," he confessed. Tears welled up in my eyes once again as his words sank in. The pain and betrayal I felt were almost overwhelming. "Why?" I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. "I don't know," he replied honestly. I think I was looking for something that was missing in our relationship. But I realize now that what I really need is to work on us, on rebuilding the trust and connection that we've lost." His words hung in the air between us, heavy with the weight of our broken marriage. Part of me wanted to hang up the phone and never speak to him again, but another part couldn't help but hope that maybe there was still a chance for us to fix this. "Okay," I said finally, my voice surprisingly steady. "But it's not going to be easy. We have a lot of work ahead of us if we want to save our marriage." "I know," he agreed. "And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." A small glimmer of hope stirred within me as his words washed over me. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the new beginning we both needed. "All right," I said softly. "Let's start by being honest with each other from now on. No more secrets or lies." "I promise," he replied earnestly. As we hung up the phone, a sense of cautious optimism settled over me. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but for the first time in a while, I felt like maybe we had a fighting chance. The rest of our trip passed in a blur of bittersweet moments as we navigated the awkward dance of trying to enjoy ourselves while also addressing the elephant in the room. There were tears and arguments, but there were also moments of laughter and tenderness that reminded me why I had fallen in love with John all those years ago. By the time we boarded the plane back home, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. We still had a lot of work to do, but we were taking the first steps towards healing and rebuilding our relationship. As I settled into my seat and fastened my seatbelt, John reached over and took my hand in his. His touch sent a jolt of electricity through me, reminding me of all the passion and desire that still lay beneath the surface. "Thank you for giving me another chance," he said sincerely. I looked into his eyes and squeezed his hand. "I'm not giving you another chance," I replied. "We're giving each other another chance." A smile tugged at the corners of his lips as he leaned in and kissed me softly. And as the plane took off into the sky, carrying us back to reality, I couldn't help but feel hopeful for our future together. Because sometimes, even in the darkest moments, love has a way of finding its way back to you.